My name is Tazeen Ali, and I am here at Lehigh to give a talk on my recent book that was published with NYU Press called The Women's Mosque of America. So I graduated in 2010 as a religion studies major, and so since then I've had this relationship with the folks in this department as first my teachers and then mentors as I went through graduate school, and now as I started my career as a scholar. And so when I think about the identity of the religion studies department, I think it's really this commitment to students and really valuing that teaching as a part of that profession. And I think that the faculty here really model how to really take seriously teaching as a part of the profession. And that's something that I felt very acutely aware of while I was a student, and also in the sense that I don't think anyone really comes to college thinking or intending to study religion. I'm sure there are some folks who do that. But for the most part, I think it kind of happens accidentally. For myself, I was enrolled in a freshman seminar with Rob Rosenall, actually. And as were, I think the entire class was all pre-med students. It was a class on global religions, but specifically kind of looking at a lot of South Asian traditions. So a lot of the class were South Asian students who were pre-med. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, I think, from taking one class and continuing to take more classes. I think for a lot of people who end up majoring in religion, it sort of starts with the class, and then you take another one, and then you realize that you can major in that. Specifically this department, religion studies, I think in some ways, and this is not to sort of argue that it's necessarily better but I think there is a key difference if we think about maybe from my personal experience coming from a major that was biological sciences, and I think there's something to be said for, especially as an underclassman, as like for first and second years, there's something very anonymous about the college experience when you're in a major where you're mostly taking lecture style classes, and it can feel very anonymous. It can be academically alienating, right? But that's not to say that it's a critique of those kinds of majors or departments, but it's just par for the course when it just takes longer to get into those smaller classes where they're more specialized. They're usually upperclassmen who are getting to, work in a lab or get that kind of more individualized attention where they feel like they're actually participating on this meaningful level. And I think with religion studies, one of the great things about this department is that the class size is so much smaller than these other sort of big lecture style classes. And so what that provides then is this immediate engagement for freshmen and for sophomores, where they're entering into the classroom and it doesn't feel anonymous. It feels very intellectually stimulating, it feels engaging, and it really sort of serves as this counterpoint to that anonymous or alienating feeling of starting college, right? Because you're in this classroom with this, a much smaller group of classmates. You're getting to know your classmates, you're getting to know your professors, and the parts of your brain that you're exercising in terms of reading and writing is just very different than the kinds of style, the style of learning in a larger lecture style class. And so I think that's what is really distinct about it, which correlates directly, I think, to class size, but also just sort of the content, the engagement, what it requires of students to sort of be present and be there and not be anonymous, right? To sort of, it's really this space for them to exercise, to really develop intellectually in that kind of more intimate setting. Most students don't know, myself included, don't know that, that we might go on to graduate school for whatever. But later there's all of these kinds of moments in retrospect that you realize how beneficial having that kind of support as an undergraduate, um, how meaningful that is, especially if you kind of go the graduate school route. Um, because I think for most students, they don't get that kind of mentorship or that kind of support until PhD, if at all. And so um, that's something that sort of sticks out as far as thinking about just having that kind of support and guidance at that level of undergrad, where there's still a lot of, not that you don't have time to change course in graduate school, um, but it's really at this moment where you can really do anything. People come into college thinking about how they're going to spend the rest of their lives, what kinds of careers are they going to pursue. And so even when we think about mentoring, we typically think about in sort of the academic world, we think about graduate training. There's something to be said for how critical that actually is at the undergraduate level, because it's much earlier and you're more sort of open about what you might like to pursue. Absolutely. I think it's a part of that like liberal arts education of why a lot of students will want to come to, smaller sized private universities like Lehigh because they expect or they ideally want to experience that. But I think that that's not always the case, depending on what kind of major you end up in and what kind of classes you're taking. So even at a smaller university, there's still these lecture style classes, and so it's about finding those pockets of or those spaces where you can try to cultivate that. And I think this department is one of those spaces.